I can make the presentation connecting Wakanda to a 4D database or to another Wakanda server. I don't know which one of you here don't know 4D. Maybe that could be so. Okay, so I'll do it first with 4D to show and to explain a bit more in detail, and also with Wakanda server because there are some things more with Wakanda server of what you can do. So before I start the demonstration, so you've seen already the connection between Wakanda and 4D, or with Wakanda and another Wakanda server. Basically, there have been quite a lot of changes in the way the data model layer works in Wakanda now. Up to WAC 3, it behaves as a direct access to the data store and database level right from the model. With Wakanda 4 and future version, it goes through a virtual layer which stays as long as possible in the data model layer, pure abstract data classes and so on, without first trying to match with anything physical on this console. So basically, we will, with that new layout in mind, we have the ability to slowly implement different access to different type of data provider, including SQL, MySQL, Oracle, and so on, without breaking any of the logic of the data model and without breaking your code. There may be some slight limitation with or speed limitations with external databases. I will try to come up with a clear idea of what you can expect and what you shouldn't do, because so it looks like it's magic. It's almost, but it's not completely. So there are some limitations, a few things to, yeah, sorry for that. So as you could see, first thing is that when you include an external data model inside your model, there are several ways you can do it. The first one is to allow that model to be accessible directly inside your data store, as if all the imported, or not imported, but the external data classes, reference external data classes, belonged to your model. So those data classes will behave as first-class citizen inside your server. You will have the ability to do whatever you can do on your local data classes. On the other hand, it's not fully dynamic. That means that you put that command, you open that external store, that remote store, when you open your data store, and it remains open and connected until you close, which is not always what you want. So there is another possibility that I'm not going to go into full detail because it's only a difference in code, so it's only one line of code, where you can actually dynamically connect to open a remote data store. In that case, those data classes will be part of a new namespace, actually a new object, like a new DS object, whatever you call it. You can call it my remote DS is equal to open a remote store and give it the address on the network where you open it. And then you can access any of the data class. You can use all the Wakanda server code on those classes, but you cannot use the user interface widget. You cannot actually use those classes in REST requests from your Wakanda server. You know, they are just accessible through code and not through user interface, because they will not be visible in the browser, actually. But it's version 4, Wakanda 4, and version and 4D version 14. So first, I'm going to do it between two Wakanda servers. Actually, it will be easier, and then with Wakanda and 4D. Basically, the idea is the same. So I'll switch here. Oh no, actually, sorry. I'll do it the other way because there are more to. Okay, so I'll do it with 4D first. So I'll start a 4D here. If you don't mind, I'll sit down. It will be a bit easier. Okay. And so you've already seen this, so I won't go into too many, I won't do exactly the same steps because you've already seen that. Just so here I want to include that data store. It's on the same computer. And I think I put it in that port. Okay. So it was a bit quick, but here in my model, as soon as I will execute that code, the studio will send that request to the 4D database REST server and will get back the model. So basically, it will do this kind of things. Oh, sorry, I need to save this first. There, I get my data class coming from the 4D data tables. As I mentioned, every call now you will make inside this will be redirected to a REST call, which means that, of course, a full REST server is implemented into 4D v14, the same one as Wakanda server, actually. And every request you make every command you make may end up with one or several requests, HTTP requests. So it is better to try to group your work. So in order to do it nicely, I've built a small example. Where is it? Sorry, test. So that example was done to test with another Wakanda server, but I'll duplicate it and I'll replace to use very quickly. So instead of my element, so inside this, I'll put this as auto increment, and I'll have field 2 and field 3 being fed up. So I'll change my code here to have field 2. Sorry, I already forgot if I put field 2 and field 3. And same thing here. Yeah, I forgot the underscore, you're right. What? Sorry, did I make any other mistake? No. Okay. Oh yeah. Put on. Thank you. I just wanted to be sure people were actually not sleeping after lunch. So, okay, I'll just get rid of all the records actually, so I can do it here. Tables. Sorry, I'm a bit at lost here. Tables there. Sorry, and I erase all of them. Okay, so in that example, I just use Wakanda to create 30 records one way, which would be the way you would do it normally on the server. I mean, you just create an entity with some attribute and some value for those attributes, and then you save it. When I do this, each save will be an HTTP request, being an update with the JSON, with the body containing the JSON object and so on. So it will be 30 requests to the server, for the server. I can do the same thing with an array. I'll just create element which contains attribute which have the same name as the attribute in my entity, in my model, and once I've created that array, I can use the fromArray command in Wakanda to actually fill up my data. So if I run this, so let me start the server. I didn't start the server yet. So when I run this, Wakanda server will do it. Well, maybe that's not undefined. Oh, yes, sorry. Because in 4D, I chose a name with a lowercase. I have to put a lowercase here. As you can see, it's not cheating. It works. It follows the rules of. Okay, so it runs, and here's the time it took. I don't know if it's easy to read. I cannot increase the size of that font here. But it took 200 milliseconds to do the fromArray, and it took about 1 second to do the saving of each element separately. It's over a local network. Of course, over an internet connection, it would be even slower. So the same rules that apply when you try to work between 4D client and 4D server apply here. I mean, you have to be careful of grouping the request you send to the server and so on. And of course, the data is there. If I look at my, so it was done for a different screen size, so I have to reduce it. Sorry. Oh, let me get rid of this. I put it on the right side. Oh, trouble. And select records. Okay, so the record were created. I mean, not very interesting data and so on. Most of the maybe I should ask, who here has already used Wakanda? I mean, really used it. I mean, program with it, know the language. So not that many people. So maybe I should explain a few things about Wakanda first, on the way you program it on the server to explain. So basically, in Wakanda, it's not like for you don't have the concept of a current selection or a current record. You really work with objects. Each time you do a query, it returns a collection. So instead of changing the current selection in 4D, it creates that selection. We call it a collection, and that collection is an object that you can manipulate, which means that you can manipulate several collections at the same time and do something with them. For example, here, while I am in Wakanda, using a 4D database, I will show you a few examples of code of what you can do to manipulate your data. For example, let me create a small file, another file. I have no idea for names. I'm as good as Thibaut for naming my files, okay? I don't know where he is. For example, if I'm in Wakanda, I can select all the books, for example, so I will do something like this, var, sorry. My collection is equal to ds.books, query. And here, for example, I could have something like this, name or title, equal, I don't even know what kind of data. I'll do it on the ID because I don't even know what kind of data I have in my, so ID less than 10, for example. And so here, I build a collection which could be perceived as the current selection in 40, but I can do another one. For example, I could do another one is equal to dsbook dot query. Oh, sorry, not use the right key. On ID list greater than 5 because I have no idea of what's inside. So, and now I can work on both collections at the same time. For example, I could do something like this. I would like to, I don't even know what kind of data I've got in my, here. Okay, I have titles and so on. So I could do something like this, my collection, dot for each. Sorry. Function. And here, a function, the for each will apply a function to each of my entities in my collection. So for example, I'll have a function that will get, so it will get a book as an entity of book, so I'll call it book. Don't confuse it with the data class, okay? Maybe my naming is not that right. And that function is going to be called for each of my books. So I could do something like this. I'll fill up an array with the title, for example, var result equal. Sorry, trouble with that keyboard. Okay, and I'll just do something like this: result dot push, and I will push the book dot title as a string inside my array. And at the end, for example, so I have my array. I want to join my array as a string with a separator, for example, with this as a separator, or this actually. Could do this. And so if I run this, that the answer is not easy to see, but I get the answer from the books in my collection here. And if I do the same thing on that collection, I will get a different thing. So you can really manipulate the data with your Wakanda object-oriented language, which comes from 4D. If I modify data, for example, let's say I'm going to do something like this. Var one book is equal to ds.book. Find. So the difference between query and find is that find will return 1 or 0 element even if there are more, it returns directly an entity where query returns a collection. And here I want an entity, I want a book. You can use the query language like you've seen to find, or you could use also something like this, which is closer to the JavaScript common syntax for querying, like in MongoDB and so on. And you can do something like this. For example, you can give an object, and that object may contain an attribute name, so an attribute actually, and a value to search on. For example, I'm going to search for Treasure Island. And I get automatically the book, and then I'm going to change something inside the book. For example, I don't know what I've got. I've got the summary, okay. Yeah, you're right. Wrong key. Thank you. Good. It's like to do cooperative work. One book dot summary. As you can see, because the catalog from the remote model has been taken into the local catalog, the local data model, the parser, the symbol parser found all those information dynamically, and they are available in our type ahead and autocomplete features of the language automatically. So for example, I'll change this very good book, for example, and set down, for example. So if I run this, I have a problem. Good. Oh yes, I know. Sorry. That function is still not implemented on remote data classes. Sorry. So right now I'll cheat a bit. Query. That was the proper syntax. It's just not implemented on the remote classes yet. A few things are still not working, so I'll do it that way. Okay, it's the equivalent. And so, actually, let's do it the right way. Whenever you have parameters, and it's better to do it that way. It's always better, because you can always put your constant value inside your query, but if you have some special characters, like another quote, or some special character which are in REST interpreted as some special character, like the I forgot how you call that, that sign, you know, and the hash sign or so on, the URL may be wrong. So we usually, the REST, when we send the query, we HTML encode everything, but still it is better to put it there, because here all of your parameters, which may contain some special characters, is passed in the body as a JSON object, and JSON has a very strict way of checking for the proper syntax, so you know that it will always work, whatever the character set you use, and so on. So it's always better to do it that way. Okay, so I run this, it's aborted, so there may be it didn't seem to have. What, sorry? Oh, yes, you're right. Thank you. Forgot when I was. Okay, it's done. And if I look into 40 for, what was it? It was Treasure, where's Treasure Island? It was in front of, oh, there it is. Now it's very good book instead of good book. So yeah, nothing very shiny here, just so that you get the ability to manipulate your data. There are much better explanation on what you can do with Wakanda server at the entity model level. Defteri has done very good demo about that and very good video. So, and we have the documentation. But yes, basically, the connection behaves unless something is not implemented yet, but behaves as if it was working with your Wakanda server. So on top of that, yes, I can put my interface, I can program my UI on top of it, and I can, let's say, create a new Okay, so you've seen very quickly. I'll go a bit further. So let's put the grid. On the grid, I'll put the author, for example, to change a bit. And if I want to do the same kind of, so let's try this first. Yes, it works. Okay, I get the author from my 4D data. Now, if I want, I can use, sorry, there it is. Let's do what was done during the keynote, not a button, sorry, wrong key. I want a text input, and that no label, and I want to be able to query on the name on the author each time I enter something. So on the key up, there it is. I'm sorry, I'm very slow because I took my glasses off to see you, but and I have trouble seeing the screen, so I'm getting old. Sorry. And so here on the, I'm going to get the value of my text field. So it's in, I already forgot what's the name. It was named text field 1. Get the value. And this value, I'm going to use it to do a query. So on my source, that book, that author, it was on author, query, where I want to find for the name, or is it name or last name? I forgot. It's name. Name equal, and going to use this. So if I try this again, no, not the right key. F1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There it is. If I start to enter things, so then nobody is starting with something wrong. It's a good time to start the debugger and see what kind of request has been sent to the. So let's try to see if I enter something like. Oh, I know what I forgot the wildcard. Thank you. So here comes the little trick I wanted to show you, actually, so it's important. So the wildcard in Wakanda is that character. The wildcard in 4D is that character. Right now, it's not final, okay? So, but right now, because we're going from Wakanda server to 4D, we have to use the wildcard of 4D. But in the future, it will be automatically replaced. So you will do everything with Wakanda's wildcard, the star, and it will be replaced by the right wildcard. Right now, I have to do it manually. It's not final. 5. So, H, okay, now it's working. If I press S and so on, S, A, and so on. So, you've already seen things like that with Wakanda, just so that keep in mind that now it's working on your 4D data, so you can really build your interface with Wakanda and so on. Sorry, I lost the tactrum at the time. How long have I got yet on this? One more half hour, at least 30 minutes, so I can show 13. Wow. Okay, so I'll switch to that screen. So let me get rid of this. There's something I wanted to show. Where is it? Okay. Oh, sorry, wrong key, but that's all right. Small bug. So let's switch 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, is it? This one is 3 or 1?
Which one do you have? Oh, geez.
Oh, maybe it's 1. Maybe it's 1.
1.
Yes, sorry. I thought it was 3. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Thank you. So here is another Wakanda server. I'll go a bit further. In that one, I've created a few methods in the model. Sorry, and I'll make those methods. So let me stop the server right now. It's difficult to see. So. Sorry, I've created for my author a method to get the cheapest book, for example. Not that interesting, but I just use the relation to get the books from the author, and I get the minimum based on the price. What is the minimum price? Then, if it's not null, that means there is at least one price. I do a query on those books to find that the book that has that price. I take the first one, and I return an object which contains the book title and the book price. So, not that useful, but it's to show at least more than one line method that can be executed. And if I change that method to be public, right now it's not, so it's there. So if I click on that method, so public on server means it will be available everywhere in my code on the server, but never accessible, never published over the network, so I will not be able to call that method as a remote method, remote procedure. So here I'll make it just full public. If I run this, I'll start the server again. Okay, it's there. I'll reopen that. Now I'm accessing that from here on that screen. You can see that I'm using the IP address of my other computer here. I have that outside catalog, which contains almost the same classes as my 4D database, except that this one is in uppercase. And now, on that method, on that class, the author, I can use that method. So which means that I can easily distribute my work among several Wakanda servers, each of them being able to handle like a kind of module. For example, I could have on my network shared by several other solutions. I could have a Wakanda server that, for example, gives me from a zip code, gives me an address, a city name, and from a city name, a zip code. I want to have that used by a lot of my other solutions. I could make it available on the network on one of the ports. Then it's usable. And I may not want to directly give access to the data. I may want to give access only to a few methods in that data class. So I could change the privilege on the data class to make the data read-only by a group that does not exist, so it will not be accessible, but the method to be accessible easily with the right privileges. So here in that example, same thing, I'm going to, inside a method, so now I'm going to connect to that other data. So first, you could see that there are some data. And the data browser, where's the data browser? It's there. And so I have some authors, I have some book, and so on. So sorry, a lot of it is in French. That was for my trial. And if I look at one particular author, for example, let's find for this one, so whose primary key is 4 here. One way also to access an entity is to do something like this. You could say var a for author is equal ds.author. Sorry. And if you use the primary key right away, without any find, without any special thing, it returns directly the entity. So it's a very easy way to access an entity when you know the primary key. And very often, from the client, from the browser, that may be the only thing you want to send back to the server to reference that entity. So it makes it very convenient to exchange information with your browser through the primary key. And here, for example, I want a.get cheapest. Should I have chosen an easier name? Okay. And if I run this, then I get the book with the smallest price and so on. So if I change my data here, if I put one more in Wakanda, if I put one more book, for example, for that author, so same thing here, I could, click a new one. So I'll create I'll create a book, any book, I have no idea, okay? And I'll put a lower price. I'll affect it to the same author, which is 4. And here, okay, I'll save. So now, if I rerun this, then I get that news. So basically, everything is really dynamic. I mean, you manipulate your data, and there's no not limitation, but any kind of object you send, you return from one Wakanda server can be reused by the other one because it's all transferred in pure JSON. So you can return an array, you can return a large array of objects which themselves contain array. For example, here, if I want to see, I could do something like this. I have a small example somewhere. Test. Not this, but I could, no, sorry, I thought I could ask for the author. I want them all, and then I want to create an array of their first name, last name, and the books they wrote, and I want only the title, for example. So it will return an array of objects. Each object will have a property first name, a property last name, and a property books. Books will be an array, which will be an array of objects which will contain the property title. So if because books is a one-to-n relation, it's based on a related entity. So if I run something like this, it sends the request to the other Wakanda server, gets back the data, and returns to me an array of objects which then may contain objects and so on. So it makes it very easy to get back some information, to manipulate that information, and then after that you can use one particular element. For example, if I want out of this, I want only element number 2, then I can do this and run this, and I get only that one and so on. So it makes it very easy to manipulate your data. There's one thing I forgot to show when connected to 4D. Maybe I should. Thomas Moll told me you should show more of real-life update and so on. So I'll do it one more, just so that you're convinced that it's real. Let me just stop. So let me switch to the right 3. I don't know how to switch back to maybe it's. Okay. Okay, you get both now. I'm kind of sorry because I already showed most of it during the summit, so there's not much new to see. So it's difficult to try to get new things to show actually. So I'll just redo a few things. Sorry, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh, sorry. Sorry, that's not. I need to change. So, of course, instead of doing it through programming, you will have the ability, that's a nice refresh bug, you will have the ability to do it through the studio. In the studio, you'll have the ability to say, okay, I want to add an outside catalog, and you'll be able to choose which one and so on. And it will be much easier than. So if I go, for example, into the data brother of that Wakanda server, it includes the table coming from 4D, and if I change some information, for example, if I create a new one, for example, a book, anything like this, it will be right away available inside 4D. So if where is my 4D? There it is. If I switch to my table book, then whatever I enter here is available. If I modify it here and or create a new one, for example, I'll create a new one, and I change I don't know what kind of picture I have got in my, actually. I have a lot of images, but I don't have any interesting ones. Let's take that. No, but okay, no, it's only personal pictures. But okay, I don't have any pictures to show here. But if I, sorry, if I entered one, they would. Okay, if you okay, just import one. But just to show that actually the data is being right away sent to. So let me find one, I guess. Okay, let's take that and copy it. And if I, sorry. It's a bit big, but okay. So yeah, in 4D I forgot to ask to shrink to. But if I save this and I refresh here, sorry, wrong key. Where is it? It's in book, sorry. So yeah, if I click on this one and I open the cover, there it is, and I can get my picture coming from 4D right away and so on. So yes, you can, any kind of data coming from 4D is right away accessible. Sorry. Oh, it's time, sorry. Yeah, so. Yeah, go on.
When you get a really large project that you have lots of, not tables, they're classes, data classes coming from different directions. If there's nothing that tells you what is the source, it's going to be kind of difficult.
It will be, that's something that is not done yet, but here in the studio, you will have a different icon from the one coming from, but also they will not be at the same level. You will have your model, which will be your local model, and then you will have any other model, outside model, with the name you gave it here, which will appear. So that way you will not have any confusion. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, yes, record locking, I forgot. Yeah. Thomas told me you should show record locking, and I forgot. Yeah. So, for example, let's say I want to modify. Do I still have the script that modify? Where is there? No. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so here's the script that modified Treasure Island, for example. Okay, so let's put something else to be sure. Okay. Now I'll go into 4D and edit that book. Treasure Island there somewhere. Yeah. If I try, yeah, the data comes from Amazon. I took the pictures from Amazon. And okay, so if I try to run that, then I run into an exception that tells me the record is locked. As soon as of course it doesn't work. As soon as I release it from 4D, I try to run that again. Then now it's done, and if I look at my data, then it has been changed. So yes, you have the full transactions also. So you can start a transaction, do some modification, and so on. One thing, as you could see from the other 4D Wakanda server, you can run methods. With Wakanda to Wakanda, it's easy because you define those methods in your model and so on. With 4D, you will have that ability up to a certain level. So you will have the ability to run global methods. They will not be associated with any data class, but you'll have like any RPC methods. Or you'll have the ability to, associate a data class, a method to a data class, and then either to the current collection or the current entity, and automatically, when Wakanda server sends a request, a REST request to actually update or to actually execute the method for that particular entity, the current record in 4D inside your running context will be set so that you can directly work with it and so on. So it will make easier for you to expose your business logic in the right way, actually. Sorry, I have no other questions. So yeah, I'll switch. Oh, you're welcome.